In this world, there are situations that science and medicine are unable to adequately explain. Even the most seasoned professionals are rendered speechless by certain incidents that defy rationality. The idea that someone skilled in the icy precision of forensic medicine may one day discuss topics that would chill even doubters is unthinkable. But I want to tell you about someone who did just that today. This is the story of America's most compassionate coroner, Dr. Jenice Carol Amuso. She is not only a forensic pathologist, but also someone whose approach to her work is rooted in empathy and a deep respect for life and death. But what sets her apart? Unlike many others in her field, Dr. Jenice doesn't see her role as purely clinical. She personally calls the relatives of the deceased before performing an autopsy, not only to gather necessary details, but also to offer her condolences. This level of kindness is rare among forensic professionals, whose work usually requires emotional detachment. But for Jenice, compassion is not optional. She believes that while her job is to uncover the truth, it is just as important to support those left behind. Her words are simple yet powerful. Sometimes the best thing I can do is just be there, listen, and help the grieving find their way back to life. Before I tell you about the astonishing experiences Jenice has had during her career, let me share a few words about her background. She was born in 1950 in Rapids, Minnesota. Her father, a well-known therapist, often shared stories from his practice. Listening to these tales as a young girl sparked a desire in her to help people. That's when she decided she wanted to become a doctor. She attended the University of Minnesota, originally training in general practice. But when it came time to specialize, her interest in uncovering the truths hidden within the human body led her to pathology. After her studies, she began working in a forensic laboratory. Her colleagues immediately noticed her rare combination of joy and optimism, a stark contrast to the often grim realities of their work. While many of her peers became desensitized over time, Jenice remained deeply affected by each case. Perhaps her openness to the extraordinary stems from her childhood. As a young girl, she woke one morning to see sunlight dancing around her room. From this glowing light, the figures of two luminous horses appeared. They circled her, and then, just as softly as they arrived, they disappeared. She believed then, and still does, that they were spiritual guides sent to watch over her. Over the years, Jenice has collected many supernatural stories. These aren't mere anecdotes, but personal accounts shared by family members, patients, police officers, priests, and fellow medical professionals. These stories, some involving near-death experiences, others visions or mysterious dreams, have been compiled into her books, Forever Hours, Real Stories of Immortality and Living from a Forensic Pathologist, and Beyond Knowing, Mysteries and Messages of Death and Life from a Forensic Pathologist. Through readings and events across the country, she shares these remarkable tales with others. Let me now tell you about one of the first incredible stories she encountered, back when she was still an intern. A patient once described how, after being given an IV medication, he had an allergic reaction and died. He detailed the moment his spirit left his body and how he observed his own resuscitation from above, a common narrative among those who experience clinical death. But what happened next was even more astounding. Another man went into cardiac arrest in the bed next to his at the same moment. The second man's soul also left his body, as witnessed by the first man's spirit. Both discovered that spiritual creatures were all around them. These creatures solely cared about the two men and had no interest in the living. One of the ghosts inquired as to whether they wanted to remain in the material world or die. The first man felt calm and fearless, happy to let go, but the second man decided to come back to life. His life was altered by that experience. He no longer feared death and discovered he could sometimes hear other people's thoughts. During his ICU stay, he even overheard a nurse silently resenting her job because she had a date planned after her shift and didn't want to stay late. He had tapped into something far beyond human understanding. Another powerful story comes from Jenice's own experience. She once conducted an autopsy on a 19-year-old named Gregory Bear, who tragically died in a car accident. His injuries were severe. Half his head was destroyed. Greg's mother, a senior ICU nurse, called Jenice with a heartbreaking question. Is it possible he was still conscious? Jenice assured her it was not. The injuries were fatal and immediate. But the next day, something astonishing happened. A local deputy came to her office and said a woman named Sheila, who had babysat Greg when he was just 2 years old, claimed to have seen him the night before. He had appeared at her bedside, glowing, and grown quickly from the toddler she remembered into a young man. He told her, "Tell my parents I love them. I'm happy and I'm with Ellie now." Jenice shared this with Greg's mother, Mary. When Mary asked who Ellie was, Jenice hesitated. Ellie was Greg's grandmother, Mary's mother, who had died 2 years before Greg was born. He had never been told about her. Mary was silent for a long time and then said, "Jenice, my sadness hasn't vanished, but it feels lighter. Now I'm certain I'll see my son again." There was also a man who died suddenly in his armchair while watching television. During the autopsy, a heart tumor was discovered. That night, his grieving wife, Julie, sat in his favorite chair and felt his arms wrap around her. Later, she was woken at 4 a.m. by footsteps. Expecting her teenage son, she looked up, but it was her husband, glowing with radiant light. He placed a hand on her shoulder and gently told her to grieve less, that he was all right and would always be near her. The next morning, she awoke still heartbroken, but comforted by the experience. The pain had softened. Not only humans, but even beloved pets seem to return to comfort us after death. Jenice tells the story of Buddy, a loyal black Labrador. After the user's mother-in-law broke her hip, she moved in with the family. At first, she didn't care much for Buddy, but during the cold winter, he started sleeping next to her, warming her with his body. After she returned home, Buddy fell ill. Before the family could tell her about his condition, she called them. She said Buddy had visited her during the night. She saw him in her room, just like he used to sleep beside her. That same morning, Buddy passed away. There are more tales. In one dream, a woman saw her grandfather strolling with her by a flower-filled pond. Even without his oxygen tank, he appeared healthy. He assured her that he would constantly keep an eye on her. He passed away that evening. Jane, a friend of another woman's, tried on a gold pendant and a burgundy dress when they were shopping. At the very moment of her dream, she found out the next morning that Jane had passed away from a heart attack. Jane wore the same jewelry and clothing at the burial. These experiences suggest that perhaps our connection to loved ones doesn't end with death. Perhaps there is more than science can explain. One woman far from home felt a deep calm as her father passed away. At the same moment, her sister in another city experienced strange flickering lights in an elevator that mysteriously stopped. Coincidences that feel like messages from beyond. And finally, there's the story of little Rob. When his baby sister was born, he begged to be alone with her. His parents agreed, though they were puzzled. Through the baby monitor, they heard him whisper, "Tell me what God looks like. I'm starting to forget." These tales, gathered throughout a lifetime of compassion and care, serve as a reminder that the line separating life and death might not be as clear-cut as we once believed. According to Dr. Jenice Amuso, love in its purest form transcends all comprehension, and we are all related in some manner.